Hi, namaste. My name's Uma Dinsmore-Tuli. I got a little question for you. If you're a woman who's practicing yoga and you have a coil or an interuterine device, sometimes called, in Italian they call it a spirale, it could be the marina coil, it could be other forms of coil. It's basically a spiral that's inserted into the uterus for contraceptive purposes. My question for you, and this is a quick question, is that if you practice yoga and you have a coil inside, I'm interested to know what your experiences have been of certain kinds of pranayama and kriya practices, because over the years, and I've spent 20 years teaching yoga to women and supporting women in all stages of life and with yoga. And over the years, I've heard many reports of discomfort or the relocation of the coils, that they get moved or that they become very difficult to remove. And I'm concerned about this because the number of reports that have been coming to me recently are increasing, and I'm also aware that yoga is increasing in popularity, and that perhaps not many teachers or practitioners are fully aware of the impact of certain yoga practices upon the presence of the coil within the woman and upon the later possibilities of removing that coil. So here are the practices I'm concerned about this, and I'm interested to raise awareness about it. So I'm currently putting together a pamphlet, a little ebook about cautions. And this is my current thinking on it. When I wrote Yoni Shakti, I made a list of things that I thought were really unsuitable practices, that you want to avoid them if you've got a coil inside you. Those practices include Kapalabhati, so the shining skull breath. It's a pumping breath, which in some schools of yoga is called the breath of fire. So Kapalabhati, Bhastrika, which is similar to Kapalabhati but has a forced inhale and an exhale. So that's Bhastrika, the bellows breath. Also Agnisar, the pumping breath, the breath of the essence of fire, and forms of Nauli, Madhyamaka Nauli and the churning Nauli. Certain kinds of Uddiyana Bandha, the uplifting bandhas, I'm also concerned about. I'm not saying that these practices are bad. I actually practice these practices myself on a daily basis, and over the years have engaged with them in different levels, before my pregnancies, after pregnancies, and now in my full engagement with those practices at this time in my life has changed. But I'm interested to hear from you and your teachers if you take any precautions about this, because it seems to me that nobody really is quite aware of the impact that it can have. And I'm concerned about women's health, and the avoidance of future suffering is my main concern here, because it seems that suffering and pain, difficulty, concerns about the contraceptive effectiveness of the coils, and concerns about how they get moved around when we do these really powerful practices, sometimes even Mula Bandha, depending on how you do it. So here's the list of practices, and please do, can you get in touch with me if you've had any experiences around these practices and their impact upon you as a woman with a coil within your uterus. So Kapalabhati, or breath of fire, Bhastrika, bellows breath, Uddiyana Bandha, the uplifting breath, Agnisar Kriya, and also certain kinds of Mula Bandha and Nauli. So Madhyamaka Nauli, churning Nauli, or just isolating Nauli. So if you're familiar with these practices, or you're a teacher that teaches them, what precautions do you give to women who have coils within them? I'd say we actually need to be fairly concerned about this, because what I've observed is that sometimes the coils can get moved, sometimes they can get moved into difficult places to remove them, and sometimes it becomes quite apparent when you try to remove them that actually they've got really rather wedged inside the wall of the uterus, which is a painful and difficult thing for the women who want to have the coils removed. I'm also interested if anybody has information about how this might affect the effectiveness of the coil, and I do know stories of babies who were born with their mother's coil firmly in their fist. So yeah, all things related to yoga and the presence of the coil, I'd be glad to have information. And in the meantime, if I'm talking to you and you're a woman with a coil in, I would say, in the meantime, until we get further information, I would just avoid all of those practices. Yeah, I'd avoid the whole lot of them, because actually we have no real sense of exactly what can happen, and the information that's coming through is that it isn't good. So let's have a think about this and help women to find yoga that suits them, yoga that supports us, and not yoga that causes difficulty, suffering, or other concerns. Okay, so thanks very much. The easiest way to contact me is through the Yoni Shakti site, yonishakti.co, and you can send messages to me through that way, and then maybe together we can raise awareness of this quite important issue, because it affects quite a lot of women, and I care about women, and I care about yoga, and I care about getting the right practices for the right people at the right time, and that means raising consciousness and awareness of this issue. Thank you for listening. Let's get on it, okay?